everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to share with you guys the books I read last year, which was the year of 2020. The year of 2020. Sorry, don't know why I spaced that for a second there. I'm gonna try and make this video short and sweet, so let's see how that goes, shall we? So if you watched my bullet journal flip through video a couple weeks ago, then you should remember this 12 books in a year spread that I did in my 2020 bullet journal, and these are the books I'm going to be talking about with you guys today. So in January, I read the book Splintered. Isn't that cover beautiful? But yes, Splintered by A.J. Howard. This was a fairy tale retelling of Alice in Wonderland. I wrote in here, gave it 3 stars, and I said, not the best, definitely entertaining. So it had like a really good adventure. It had a lot of really interesting elements to it that I really liked. It just didn't grab my interest to the point where I want to read more books. I do believe this is book 1 out of 5, I think. It was definitely entertaining, I'll give it that, but not the best. So in February, I read the book called Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. Now this book was a psychological thriller, a little bit different than the fantasy adventure books that I tend to read, but my aunt let me borrow it. She said it was really good and she wanted me to read it, and it was. I wrote in here, very well written and exciting. So it was. I read that book in less than a week. I was very drawn to it. So if you're looking for a good thriller, it definitely had some good stuff going for it if you're into that sort of book. I read the book Juliet Immortal. This one's by Stacy J, and let me tell you, this was awful. This is another retelling. This one is of Romeo and Juliet, and right off the bat, it has so many good ideas, so many good, like, intriguing aspects that could be done so well. But since the writing was so bad and the flow of the story was absolutely devastatingly horrific, it was a huge waste of time for me. The only reason why I finished it was because it was a small book and I kind of needed to finish it for my book of the month. So unfortunately, it was really disappointing that this was so bad, but we're going to move on from this one. This is Uprooted by Naomi Novak. If you look this book up, it has an insane amount of ratings and reviews, and almost all of them are super ridiculously positive. People love this book, and I don't know, maybe some of you watching this video do really like this book, and if you do, that's fine. That's fine. But no, in all seriousness, this one I gave 3 stars. Wizardry and magic was engaging, but also disconnected. I wanted to like this book, I really did, but the element of magic and the protagonist in this story did not flow very smoothly. The characters I felt were very disconnected, and I felt like it just wasn't what I was expecting as far as that world building that I was hoping to discover in here. Just in all, it felt bumpy. It was missing something. For me personally, it wasn't my favorite. Okay, in May, I read The Hangman's Daughter. Pardon me for not being able to read the last name. I've probably butchered it saying it in the past. But it's German. This is a German historical fiction, and this book was the best. This book was so good. The writing was flawless, which is odd considering that this book was originally written in German and then translated into English. I was not expecting that translation from German to English to flow so smoothly through the pages. The story was just so engaging. The characters, they were full-bodied characters that I wanted to know more about. This was just such a big hit for me. When I wrote it down in my spread, I mean, obviously I gave it 5 stars, and I said that I fell in love with it, can't wait to read it again. Yes, I will be reading this again someday. When I get the time, I will read this one again. This was so good, you guys. In June, I read Bloodbound by Patricia Briggs. This is book 2 of her Mercy Thompson series. I have read the first 3, and I know by the covers they're all pretty like risque looking, and they look like they're very like adult themed, but these books are actually one of the cleanest fantasy books I've ever read. They're quick, they're easy reads, the characters are super fun, and it's not gross. Another fun thing that I really love about this Mercy Thompson series is that it takes place in the northwest of the US, and that's where I live. So the characters are literally running around and traveling through all the cities that I live in or hear about or drive through or visit just because that's where I live. So that's pretty cool. For me personally, that's what makes this a little extra special. I gave it 4 stars, so yes, very good book. In July, I read the book House of Salt and Sorrow. Now this one was a retelling of The 12 Dancing Princesses, which I thought was a great idea. Apparently there was a theme for last year, is retelling of fairy tale stories. So after I read The House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig, I gave it 3 stars, and I said, let's see, I really wanted to like, however the genre was unclear, the plot wasn't smooth, enjoyable characters, great concept. So what I mean by the genre wasn't clear was because it started as a mystery, then it was like a horror, then it was a romance, and then it was fantasy, then it went back to horror, and then it was all of a sudden like a weird drama, and I'm like, okay, come on people, pick a theme and stick with it. If you're gonna do a retelling of a classic story, pick a genre that you want to retell it in and stick to it. This one was quite the bumpy ride, but I did really want to like it. I thought it was a really good idea. It was not terrible, but just be warned that the ride through the story is not very smooth. Let's just put it that way. Okay, next I read the classic Redwall by Brian Jacques. I mean, we've all read this book when we were kids. I read this when I was really young, and this has always been one of the best books I had ever read until I read it again as an adult. Unfortunately. I ended up giving it 3 stars, and I said liked it better when I was younger, and here's why. When I read this as a kid, all I really remember was like the action and the adventure, which there definitely was, and there was definitely like a lot of like be a hero and go out there and do your best and save everyone, you know, and go on this quest and all that great stuff, but along the way, like the conversations between all the animals and some of the elements of the quest, I'm really sorry to say I found to be quite cheesy and annoying, and I was really disappointed, and halfway through I was like, I need to stop reading this because it's kind of destroying my childhood. I don't know what happened. My perspective on these characters dramatically changed since I'm older, and I have read more books and I have more of a mature like idea on what I expect. It's still good. It's not bad. You just gotta put yourself into the mind of a child when you read this in order to really appreciate it. But anyways, with that being said, I think we should move on. Okay, next, Riverkeep by Martin Stewart. Ooh, I gave it 4 stars, and I said, great story, original concept, love the characters and their conversations. Funny and memorable. Yes, this book was very original. I had not read anything like this before. It was so immersive and witty and quick on its feet, but at the same time, it was very intriguing and mysterious and creepy. Like, it was an adventure. I loved this book. It was so very well executed, and the characters were so unique. This was very good, and I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for a adventure fantasy story. This is the one from last year that I read that I would definitely recommend. Since I was already a big fan of Patricia Briggs with her Mercy Thompson series, I kind of wanted to start another like small paperback large series, and so I picked up Hounded by Kevin Hearn. or Hernay. This is actually very lighthearted and very funny. I gave it 4 stars and I said basically the same thing I told you. Funny, witty characters, we'll read book 2. And I have already read book 2 and I'm starting on book 3. I think these books are really fun. If you want something quick, something lighthearted, something just to pass the time, that's what this will do for you. Okay, no surprise here. I read The Dark Monk. This is book 2 to The Hangman's Daughter by Oliver. This is the German writer for the German historical fiction that I mentioned earlier. This book unfortunately was not as good as the first, but it was still good. He did a great job trying to keep the interest by adding new characters, and he's very good at building new characters. The story in and of itself that wasn't as gripping as the first one, but still I did give it 4 stars, and I said not as good as book 1, still very entertaining. Because The Hangman's Daughter got 5 for brilliant, this one got 4 just because it was still very well written and the flavor was still there. It just didn't pack as much punch as the first book did. So that was Dark Monk. Last but not least, I read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I think the problem with this book that a lot of people have is that it's not advertised correctly. I'll tell you what I wrote about it. I gave it 5 stars. I said stunning, loved every moment. If you open this book and you read like the synopsis about what The Night Circus is about, it comes across as being a very fast-paced, high-energy, wizards fighting against each other in this battle. No. Unfortunately, that's not what this is. This is a piece of art. It's very slow-paced. We're in 3 different time periods. We're following like 4 different characters. If I'm being honest with you, I did have to stop and go back and go, okay, wait, who is this? And how old was this person? And what time was it when he was so... You know, it was a little bit of a maze. A little bit of a maze. Just a pinch. But the battle that this book is represented, you know, up front to have is not the kind of battle that you're thinking of. It's very misguided in that way. It's almost like there isn't a battle. It's almost not there. But it is there. It's just it's hard to explain. It was just very different, but it was so good. It was written so good, but you kind of have to take your time with it. Like I said, it's like a piece of art. Everything fits into place. And again, the ending is still only cool if you're attached to what you read. If you're expecting to read something, but you're not reading what you're expecting, and you get to the end, you will be disappointed because you weren't reading what you were expecting. You kind of have to read it without expecting, so you get attached because it's not anything that you're expecting. So when you reach the end, you're like, okay, that's pretty cool. Does that make any sense? I loved it. I think this was amazing, and I think I will try to read this one again if I can. Okay, I did it. Was it short and sweet? I don't know. Guess we'll find out. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and if you liked it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you've not done so already, and I will see you again in my next video. Bye-bye.